Welcome to the series of everything you need to know about Python in simplest possible way. The series of pattern printing, so far we have seen so many patterns. In this video, we will see how we can actually print this particular pattern. So if you could carefully observe this particular pattern, we are starting this particular pattern with A, and in the first row, later we have two B's in the second row, later we have three C's, four D's, five E's. After we reached five D's, we are again decreasing this particular number of alphabets in row with D. We are again getting D. We are again getting three C's. We are again getting two B's. We are ended up with a single A. So this is a kind of symmetric shape. This above pattern which is here is reversed in here. In middle we are having this particular E. So let us go ahead and see how we can actually print this particular whole pattern. So in order to print this whole pattern, what we generally do is that we will divide this whole pattern into two different patterns, which is one this above pattern. Later we will print this particular below pattern. By combining both above pattern and below pattern, we will get the whole pattern. So in order to do that, let us go ahead and start with this particular above pattern. So we have 5 rows in this above pattern, right? So for that reason, I will take a variable rows and I will assign with 5. So after that, if you could carefully observe this particular pattern, apart from these particular alphabets, we are also having these spaces, right? So first we need to print spaces, later we need to print this particular alphabet to get the exact pattern. So for that reason, in order to keep track of these spaces, I will use a variable spaces and I will assign number of spaces we have in first row. So for that reason, if you see number of rows in first row, we are having, let's count, we are having 1, 2, 3, 4. We are having 4 spaces here. That is what I will assign here. So I don't directly assign the value 4 because in future, if we change the value of rows, the pattern will be affected, right? So for that reason, I will take rows minus 1. So by mentioning this rows minus 1, which is 5 minus 1, which is results 4, so that even if we change the value of rows, the spaces will also change to get the exact pattern. So later what we will be doing is that this pattern we are starting with pattern with alphabet A. So in order to keep track of these alphabets, in order to print all alphabets, I will start with alphabet A and I will take a variable alpha to keep track of these alphabets. As we have discussed, we are starting with alphabet A, right? So one thing we need to realize is that we cannot directly keep track of this alphabet. So for that reason, we will convert these alphabets to its equivalent integer numbers. So we can use that integer numbers to keep track of this alphabet. So for that reason, first we need to convert this alphabet to its equivalent integer numbers. So to do that, we have a specific coding which is ASCII codes. So if you don't know about ASCII codes, if you don't know about how to convert these particular alphabets to its equivalent integer number, watch my first video about alphabets pattern printing 1, where I have clearly explained how to do that, what are ASCII values, how to convert alphabets to its equivalent integer numbers. In this video, we will be knowing what is necessary to print the pattern. So as part of that, we will convert this particular alphabet to its equivalent integer number. So to do that in Python, we have a specific method which is ORD. So by using this ORD method, we can actually convert these alphabets to its equivalent ASCII integer number. So I am passing this alphabet A to ORD. So to get the exact alphabet equivalent integer number. So later, in order to generate this many number of rows here, I will use a for loop. So for I in range, so now we will be generating the range of values for rows. Remember, we are only generating the range of values for rows. So as part of that, what we will be generating is that if you carefully observe this pattern, we have 1 in first row, 2 in second row, 3 in third row, 4 in fourth row, 5 in fifth row. So like that, we are having this number of values in rows. So to help further to print this particular number of alphabets, I will start with 1 and go till the value of rows which is 5. So for that reason I will mention rows plus 1. So by the functionality of this range, we will be getting 1 to 5. So for that reason only I am mentioning rows plus 1. So in this for loop, if I print the value I to know what values we have got, we can able to see the exact values, that is what we have expected, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So by using this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we can actually generate this many number of alphabets in every single row. So as apart from that, these are just rows. This one is just a row. This two is just a row. Three is just a row. These are just a rows. So I am using this range to generate this range to help further to print how many number of values we are having in each row. So you can actually compare this pattern. Here we have one A that we can be used with this particular I value to print 1A. Later, we have two B's. We can use this row with I value 2 to generate two values here. Like that, we can use this particular I value to generate those many number of values in each row, right? So for that, what I will be doing is that these are repeating statements, right? So in every single row, we are generating I number of I number of values which are alphabets. So for that reason, we need to use loops. So for that reason, I will use a for loop. For j in range, we need to generate a range of values, which is what we have discussed. We need to generate I number of values in row. So for that reason, I will start with 1 and go till the value of I plus 1. By the functionality of this range, we will be stopped at the value of I itself. So here I am mentioning colon. This particular loop, instead of printing this particular I will print the value of alpha, which is what we are using to keep track of these alphabets. Right? So for that reason, I am mentioning alpha. So if I directly print this particular alpha, we only get the alphabet, we only get the integer values, which is 65. We are getting all 65s here. So in order to get the alphabets, what we need to do is that we need to convert this particular integer values to its equivalent alphabet. So to do that in Python, we have a specific method which is chr. So by using this chr, we can actually convert these integer values to its ASCII equivalent alphabet. So for that reason only, I am passing this particular alpha to chr to get the alphabet. So if I directly execute this, we are only getting the alphabets which are A. So here we are having different alphabets, right? First we have A, later we have B, later we have C. Like that, alphabets are keeps increasing. So for that reason, after completion of this inner for loop, this inner for loop is responsible to generate how many number of values we are having in each row. So after that, if I directly increase the value of this particular alpha, we can able to get the alphabets which are what we have in this pattern, right? So if I execute this now, we can able to get the values of 1a, 2 b's, 3 c's, 3 c's here, and 4 d's, and 5 e's here. Like that, we are getting these particular alphabets. Now the only thing we need to do is that we need to arrange these alphabets so that we can able to get the exact pattern. So to arrange, what I will be doing is that I will mention an end here with a single space. By default, this end parameter in print function having a new line character. So for that reason only, we are getting this everything in a new line. So by mentioning this single space, we can able to get everything in a single line. So after that, this is not what we expected, right? So we need to get B's after completion of this A in a new line and C's also in a new line. Like that, we need to get a new line. So for that reason, after completion of this inner for loop, we need to generate a new line. So this inner for loop is responsible to generate the values in every single row only. So for that reason, after completion of that particular row, we need to generate a new row by this particular new line character by print. So print is having end parameter by default new line so that we can able to get new line. So now if I execute this, we can able to get the pattern in shape. So now we only need to arrange spaces before this particular alphabets to get the exact pattern. For that reason, if you could observe this pattern carefully, we are getting the spaces before actually getting the alphabets. So for that reason, as and when I enter into this outer for loop, I will print the spaces here. So I am printing the spaces multiplying the spaces variable. So now I am also mentioning this end as this nothing single quotes. So by default, end is having new line character. We don't want any new line character. For that reason, I am replacing character with this. So we are using the spaces to keep track of the spaces, right? So for that reason only, I am using the spaces to print exact number of spaces. After that, if you observe this pattern carefully, the spaces are keeps reducing, right? We have four spaces here. Later we have three spaces. After that we have two spaces. At the end we have one space here, and after that we don't have any spaces in the row. So for like that we need to decrease the spaces. So for that reason I am mentioning spaces minus equal to 1. So by mentioning the spaces minus equal to 1, we are reducing the spaces on each iteration. So now if I execute this, we can able to get the pattern that is what we have here in above. So now I hope you can able to understand this logic to generate this particular above pattern. So if you are enjoying this particular video so far, hit the like button. So later we will directly see how we can actually print this particular below pattern. So we will be following the similar procedure that what we have followed to print the above pattern. So as part of that, in order to generate this many number of rows here, I will use a for loop. So for k in range. So now we will be generating the range of values for rows, and that also helps to generate how many number of values in rows. It is nothing but here we are starting with 4, right? And starting with 4 and going till the value of 1. So for that reason I will start with 4, which is nothing but rows minus 1. Rows is having 5, rows minus 1 is nothing but 4. We are starting with 4 and going till the value of 1. So for that reason I will mention 0. By the functionality of this range, we will be stopped at the value of 1 itself. If you got any confusion while understanding this range function, watch my video about range function where I have clearly explained how this range works, how to use this range function effectively. So here I will also mention minus 1 because we are reducing the values, right, on each row. So for that reason only I am mentioning minus 1. So in this for loop, I will just print the value k to know what value we have in k. So we can see we have 4, 3, 2, 1. So these are nothing but rows. This is one row, this is one row, this is one row, one row. Like that, these are just rows. Apart from this just rows, we are using this particular value here 4 to generate 4 many number of values in this particular row here. So like that, you can compare this particular below pattern with this particular k values to generate those many number of values in each row. So for that reason, I will use one more loop here for L in range. So now we will be generating the range of values as we have discussed k number of values in each row. So for that reason, I will start with 1 and go till the value of k 1. So now in this for loop, what I will be doing is that instead of printing this particular k value, I print the value of alpha, which is what we are using to keep track of alphabets. Right? So apart from just printing this alpha, we need to convert this alpha to its character, right? So for that reason, I am mentioning alpha to character. So apart from that, we need to format this. If we directly print this, we only get the characters. It is nothing but F here. So we are getting this alpha character, which is F. We need to decrease this alpha character, right? So for that reason, what I will be doing is that if we could compare this pattern, we are getting D and we are need to go till the value of A, right? So for that reason, I need to decrease the value of alpha. So for that reason, I am decreasing by minus 1. So now if I execute this, we still only getting F, E, B, C. So we are starting this particular below pattern with F. The reason is because after completion of this above pattern here, we are using this alpha variable for both above pattern and for both below pattern. For that reason, we need to modify this alpha a little bit so that we can able to get the exact values. So for that reason, what we need to do is that we can observe this particular alpha, right? So we are keep tracking these alphabets by this alpha, right? So for that reason, I am printing the alpha to know what value we have in alpha. So we can see the value in alpha, which is 70, is nothing but the value of f here. So we need to decrease this particular 70 to 68 here. This 68 is nothing but D. So for that reason, we need to decrease this 70 to 68 so that we can able to get the value D here. So for that reason, what I will be doing is that I am mentioning alpha minus equal to 2. So now if I execute this, we can able to get the values D, 4 Ds, 3 Cs, 2 Bs and 1 A. Like that, we are getting the alphabets. So the only thing we need to do is that we need to arrange those alphabets so that we can able to get the exact pattern. So to arrange, as we have arranged in above, I will be using an end here with a single space. After that, after completion of this out inner for loop, I will use a print to get a new line. So now if I execute this, we can able to get this kind of a shape. So now if I print the value before this particular alphabets, these spaces before these alphabets, we can able to get the exact pattern. So for that reason, as and when we enter into this outer for loop, I will print spaces here. So I am taking space and I am multiplying this with spaces variable and I am mentioning the end as nothing by a single quotes here. So now, if I directly execute this, we won't get it because we need to modify the spaces, right? So the spaces are keeps increasing as and when the rows are increasing. So for that reason, here I will increase the value of spaces. So even then, we don't get the exact pattern, but we because we are using this particular spaces variable for both above and both below. As we have modified this particular alpha, we need to modify this space to get the exact pattern. Before that, we will check what spaces we have in spaces variable. So for that reason, I am printing these particular spaces, and if I execute this, we are having the spaces as -1. So in here, if you consider we have one space here, right? In the first row, we have one space, and here we have the value -1. So we need to convert this particular -1 of spaces variable to 1 so that we can able to get the one space in the first row. So we have the difference 2, right? So for that reason, we need to increase the spaces by 2. So for that reason only, I'm mentioning spaces plus equal to 2. So I will remove this print statement, and if I execute this, we can able to get the exact pattern. That is what we are expecting here, right? So now I hope you can able to understand this whole logic to generate this pattern. So if you found any difficulty while understanding this logic, I sincerely suggest you to watch the video once again carefully so that you can understand this logic clearly. So now what we will be doing is that we will take input of this source dynamically from user and the pattern accordingly. So we want integer value. So for that reason I am mentioning, and we are using, and I am asking user to enter rows here. So now if I execute this, it was asking me to enter rows. I will give the value, let's say 4 here. So we can able to see the result starting with A going till D, which is value of 4. So later we are coming down till the value of till the alphabet, which is A. So let's say if I give another alphabet, which is 9, is number 9. So we can see the result starting with A going till alphabet I, which is equivalent to number 9, and coming down until the value of A. So now I hope you can able to generate this logic to generate this kind of a pattern by to get the pattern by given any number by the user. So I hope you have found this video interesting. If that is true, hit the like button. To stay updated with my latest videos, subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications to all so that whenever I upload any video, you will get the notification. So thank you for watching this video. See you in the next.